Alright, drafters, here today with a video where I'm going to be looking at the economy for drafters on Arena, specifically for drafters. There's been a lot of talk recently with the economy stream about the economy for constructed players, but nobody's really that I've seen done a huge amount on limited, and okay, it hasn't changed since the economy stream. They did briefly mention it, but I think it is important. It's something actually that I've been looking into. Specifically, Premier Draft makes us have a lot of feel bads when I'm playing Premier Draft, so I originally did a bit of an investigation starting about 2 or 3 weeks ago now, actually, into what all these numbers mean, what the prizes mean, and what the EV is, and why maybe I'm feeling a bit rubbish when I'm playing Premier Draft. And then it's kind of merged into this, it's kind of snowballed a little bit. I went really down a rabbit hole, and I came up with this. I wanted to wait until after the economy stream to bring it out in the end, because I was checking if anything changed, but like I say, nothing really changed. And it's got some interesting findings. I think that, it's something I did for myself, and I decided to share it with all of you. And I think it is really, really interesting. Now, I did mention about the economy stream, and obviously that came out, and that's had a lot of discussion around it. But there was a small bit about draft, which I'm going to link in right now.
Okay, I really like this question because it asks, honestly, the flip side of a lot of what we've been talking about, because a lot of what we've been talking about has been focusing on constructed players.
Yeah.
And so this question is about limited players, and maybe the idea we stuck in your ear hole is part of this. Are there any economy considerations for limited players with hundreds of spare wildcards and unopened packs? So someone who goes on Arena to play limited, the rewards they get, they're not interested in constructed.
That's a really good question.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it stems from we think having a collection is valuable. We know that not every player wants the collection.
Yeah.
One of the things that you would talk about, like, what are ways that you would prevent some of that, which is a phantom event or a different reward structure or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But we do want to be cautious about who is playing in the formats and what the their ultimate goal is.
Yeah.
I'll say that right now, if your only goal is to chain limited and you're getting boosters, that's not necessarily going to be a thing that's super rewarding for you.
Right.
We don't have any specific plans to address that at this time.
Okay.
But it is, again, as we think about the different types of players we have and how we meet their needs, it's certainly worth talking about.
All right.
So essentially no changes, and they don't really have a plan for people who do limited first. Now, personally, on Arena, I'd play very little constructed if I didn't need to grind the gold in my dailies to draft. And okay, I could pay, but when I'm paying for a draft, it doesn't, not that I've really paid for a draft before, but when I look at the cost of a draft in cash, it doesn't feel very good. And I'm going to do a bit more of a deep dive on this, but I don't feel I'm getting a lot of value for money, although my findings were it's a little bit better than I thought, so that's something to look forward to. Now, before I go any further, I do want to say that I think that having the packs and stuff and getting prizes for constructed is a really good way to have it on Arena, because it means that we're pulling constructed players into a limited bubble and we're making it more appealing for them, and this crossover is really, really good. And you can say the same about giving the limited players the cards to play with in constructed, and maybe tempt them into constructed a little bit like that. But I think if limited players want to play constructed, they've probably already tried it before. I think it mainly goes the opposite direction, and I think there's there's definitely an argument for doing something that's just for limited players and making Arena better for limited first players or limited only players, and that's what I'm going to be looking into right now. So there are a few alternatives to Premier Draft on Arena itself. You've got Quick Draft and Traditional Draft, which both have their pluses and negatives. Quick Draft, best of 1 against bots. Traditional Draft, best of 3 against other players, whereas Premier Draft is best of 1 against other players. So they've got kind of all bases covered there. Quick Draft is ranked, the same as Premier Draft, but traditional Draft isn't. On Magic Online, you've got a couple of different leagues. These aren't ranked at all. It's just kind of paired against whoever you're against. And you've got the normal one, which you get to keep the cards afterwards, and you've got the Phantom Draft, where you don't. And both of these, you can win cashable rewards and things like that. So again, I'll go into this a little bit more later. And finally, of course, is Paper. So Paper is the best way to play limited, really. There's something about a pod draft with 7 other people, which is really, really good, and you can't really encapsulate that online in any other way unless you're doing something by Discord, by a private event, but Arena doesn't even have that in play yet. So I think that Paper is the best way to play it, and I'll try and do comparisons. Paper especially is quite difficult to do the comparisons, but we'll go through it a little bit when we get there. So prizes for Premier Draft is where I'm going to start. So I'm going to talk you through here. So 0 wins gets you 50 gems, 1 win gets you 100 gems, 2 wins gets you 250 gems, 3 wins gets you 1,000 gems, and that's a big step up, and that's going to be a big talking point about what I'm going to be going through today. 4 wins, 1,400, 5 wins, 1,600, 6 wins, 1,800, and 7 wins, 2,200 gems. And you do get an amount of packs which goes up as you go through these things, but I'm not going to be focusing too much on the packs, and the reason for that is, first of all, the packs don't really matter until you've already completed the set, or near enough completed the set. And even then, they don't give you very much gems. If you get a duplicate, a 5th copy of a rare card, you get 20 gems. And I will include a little bit to show you that it doesn't really matter, but I think it's quite a small factor about what we're talking about. So then, if you are an average player and you're going to have about a 50% win rate, you would think that, just by looking at the numbers, even if you're fairly numerically inclined, that the average win that you would get is 3-3. However, half of your drafts will end up below 3-3. And when we looked at those prizes earlier, where you need to go 3-3 to really get a decent prize to win back at least a good portion of your draft, and even then it's only 2/3 of a draft you get in gems. That means that half of your drafts, if you're a 50% win rate player, are going to be below that level. And then the other half are going to be above this. And the reason for this, there's other people have done this analysis as well, and it kind of matches up with what I've got. But you have, imagine you're 2-2. You've then got a 50% chance of going 2-3 and bombing out at 2-3, or going 3-2, and then you get a chance of going 4, 5, 6, and 7-2. And then that's truncated up at 7. So that's stopped up at 7, and that's kind of the reason why it splits this way. You'll also notice that if you go 7x, it's got a slightly bigger bar than it does for going 5-3 or 6-3. But that's because you got 7-2, you got 7-1, you got 7-0 in that as well. So this is quite easily done if you kind of do a little bit of analysis on it, and you would have 512 different outcomes, and they would distribute themselves in this way. And this means that your EV, if we're just talking about the gems, is going to be about 819 gems a draft, which is slightly over half, which isn't bad, but it's below that 1,000 that I would kind of expect it to be. And this is also the fact that if you are 3-3, and you say you're going to go 3-3 on average, so you've got a slightly higher than average win rate, then you'll get 1,000 gems back per draft, and most people would be fairly happy with that. It's not too bad, to be honest. And if you have 1-2-3, so you're going to drop down to 250 gems, you've lost 750 gems. So you think, okay, well, if I do a 4-3 next, then that's going to balance it out. But it doesn't, because that only gives you another 400 gems. So you effectively need 2 4-3s for every 2-3 that you get, which is pretty rubbish, to be honest. And it means that if you string a few 2-3s or 1-3s or 0-3s even in a row, just because you've had a couple of bad drafts, you can quickly run out of resources, as has happened to me recently. This is since I was doing quite well when I started this, actually, when I started this investigation, but the last week or so, I had a couple of bad drafts on Arena, and you run out of resources and you resort to pay to draft again, or to grind your gold. And to be honest, if there's one time when I'm not likely to pay money into doing a draft, it's when I've just bombed out of another one, and I don't really want to experience that again. So the economy side for Wizards is not really encouraging people to pay for the drafts when they have to, because it's at the exact time when people don't want to do that. So I think that's quite an important point to look at. And I do hear you saying, well, what about if you include those packs? Well, that gives you 929 gems, which is still below that 1,000. And I think, like I say, you need to have completed your collection for that set to really get the benefit from this. And yeah, okay, you can see you get slightly more than 20 because you get 40 for a mythic. But sometimes you'll get a wild card from your packs, and sometimes it gets full progress and things like that. But I think on average, 20 is quite a good number to work with as a gem cost per pack. Of course, if you're building a collection, this is worth a little bit more, but I'm looking at this from a limited first or limited only player's perspective. And I also hear you saying, but Chris, I'm not a 50% player. I'm your average 17 lands player who gets about 55% win rate, or I'm a really, really good player and I get a little bit more than that even again. And yeah, okay, fair enough. So I've done some analysis on what it's like to get the different win rates. And the break-even point is 67.5%. You can see this from the graph here. The break-even point where you're going to be getting, if we're just looking at gems, if we're not looking at packs, the EV back from the draft is 67.5% more or less. I did this by modelling and doing 2,000 drafts per win rate for between 1% and 100%, or 1%, 99% win rate. I can't quite remember the extent of it, but obviously we're more interested in this middle bit. And you can see the distribution here. And that is a really, really high win rate. it's. I mean, if you look at this graph from 17 lands, or this table from 17 lands, you can see that it's the best player. It's what the best players are getting. Yes, okay, and it is possible, but it's not what the average good player is going to be getting. The average good player, I would say, is going to be between 55 and 60%. And if you're a 60% player, you're a very good player. So I think that's a very, very important point, that most players according to this won't be going infinite. Now, a lot of people might be watching this and going, well, I'm kind of pretty much going infinite, and I'm not like a Numot or anything like that, but I'm just quite a good player. And that's because you do bring in the daily rewards as well, the daily grinding, and you get up to a certain amount of rewards then. So let's have a look a little bit about that math and the maths behind the daily wins and how that can help balance things out. There's something else I actually want to jump into before we go into this, and this is the average level of deck that you're going to play against on Arena, because there's some interesting numbers here, which might be, it's not quite conspiracy level theory, I'm not like a shuffler who's rigged type guy or anything like that, but there's some numbers here which at least bear thinking about. So it all comes down to, if you've got a 0-3 deck, that deck is going to be playing three games. If you go 1-3, that deck's going to be playing 4 games. If you go 7-2 at the other end of the scale, that deck's going to be playing 9 games. So if you have a look at any draft pod, so again, we've got this 512 draft pods, because that's kind of how it ends up when you work it out. 512 players. Less than 1% of games, so actually it's only one person out of 512 will go 0-3, so that deck will be accounting for less than 1% of the games on Arena. If you go 1 win, it counts for about 1% of the games on Arena. If the 2 win decks count for about 3%, and the 3 win decks count for about 6%. So at this point, we've got around about 10% of the decks, 10% of games on Arena are played by decks which are going 3-3 or less. And that's like quite a small percentage. And if we go up again, 4 wins is 11%, 5 wins 18%, 6 wins is 27%, and that means that if those who have done the math in your head already, a bit of quick maths, 7 wins accounts for, the decks that go 7 wins accounts for 33% of all the games played in Draft on Arena, which is huge, especially if you consider that was only 9% of drafts will end up in a 7-win deck. It's just unaccountably huge compared to that value. Now, of course, there is matchmaking there. We know there's matchmaking, and the better your deck does, the better your opponent's decks do feel to be. But it's also based on a few other things. It's based on your current rank. It's based on your MMR. And to be honest, I just don't trust the matchmaking algorithm to always kind of filter this out. I think that often you will be playing against the better decks in the format more than other things, because of the way this is going. When you win more, you get to play more games, so there's more games like that played on Arena. It could be that it's totally accounted for, I do not know, but I think this is worth pointing out, because sometimes you just get an alright deck and you think, but my opponents had the nuts, they had really, really good decks, and that's because they probably did, because you're playing against potentially decks which are winning again and again and again. And this doesn't help the kind of mentality and the mental health, well, not mental health issues, but the mental issues that go alongside drafting on Arena. You're already feeling bad when you go 2-3 and you can't really draft again because you've run out of currency. Then you're also feeling bad because your opponents all feel like they've got better decks than you, because on average your opponents will have better decks than you, kind of. I know, of course, if you get a 7-win deck, then you'll be that person sometimes, but it's like, you've all played against those decks which just seem to have like 7 rares. You know who you are, but it's frustrating to play against sometimes when you're just getting beat by rare after rare after rare, especially in a very Prince format. But I think it's important to realize this is going on as well. Anyway, let's look at the finances. So I'm going to base my calculations on the 100 or the $99.99 a euro bundle, which gets you 20,000 gems. For a few reasons, it's the best value one, and also it's quite a little bit easier to do some maths on, because you end up with about €1 or $1 for 200 gems. I'm not going to be going to pounds at this point, because it's the same in euros and dollars, so it makes it a bit easier to talk about. But I think like $1, €1 and $1 aren't quite equivalent, and a pound is going to be slightly more than that, about 120, I think, if I remember rightly. But all these values I'm talking about on Arena will be talking about dollars and euros. When I go into Magic Online, I'll be talking specifically about dollars, and when I talk about paper, I'll be talking specifically about pounds, so just bear that in mind. So this means that 1,500 gems to draft in Premier Draft, this costs you about $7.50 per draft. That's dollars or euros. And that's quite a lot of money to do an Arena Draft, which might be over an hour and a half. I think it's a lot better for paper, where you get a good 3-4 hours of entertainment out of things, but it's quite a lot. However, we do get the EV back, so let's say you're getting your average EV back of 819 gems. That just brings the overall cost down to 681 gems, which is about 341 per draft, which is a lot more manageable. Obviously less than half the price, but I think it's still a little bit high. It's higher than I would kind of want to pay for something just an hour and a half activity on an online game, on a digital game. I think that's still quite high. Now, as I said before, we also get gold from daily wins. We get resource from daily wins and just winning on arena and playing on arena. You don't even always need to win. And if you get all of your daily wins, which is 15 wins, that's more than you're probably going to get. And from now on, when I'm talking about monthly costs and things like that, I'm going to be assuming that we are talking about a drafter who wants to draft one draft per day, which I think is a reasonable value to go at. So let's say you got your gems a day, that you get 750 for your daily wins, and you get a 500 one for your daily quest. You can re-roll your quest, I realise, but when you balance it out with the amount of gems that you might get from your daily wins, because you don't know, well, some people do get 15 wins a day every day, but not everybody will be doing that. You do get other bits and pieces as well. You get your midweek magic events and stuff like that, and you get things from the pass. But I'm going to keep it as 1,250 coins per day, just for simplicity, really, and that works out at 187.5 gems per day if you get all these wins. So that brings down, if you're doing one draft a day, it brings it down to 493.5 gems, which is about 247 a draft, which again is getting close to where I want to be. But I think, to be honest, I want to be around the $1 mark or £1 mark or something like that. I think that is a price I'd be happy with to pay cash for a draft. And it's the point where I pay, because at the minute I'm not really paying money in Arena at all, because the cost doesn't seem worth it to put cash into this. And when I spoke to other people, they're the same idea. Some people just wouldn't want to pay anything anyway, which I get, it's fair enough. They say, why don't I pay for something I can get for free? But you can't always get it for free, because there's a hard cap on the amount of coins you can get per day, and you've got to grind it in its time and things like that. But at the same time, I'm not wanting to pay this amount. And if we're going to do one draft a day, $247 per draft, it's going to be $74 a month, $74 a month to do one draft a day. That's like, if you think of a subscription, there's like very few games which will have a subscription that high for kind of like your base level. So this isn't really a sustainable solution. And okay, you might not be 50%. So let's take your average 17 lands user who has about a 55% win rate. Well, that ends up being around $48 a month or €48 a month, which is better. It's better, but it's still quite high. It's still really high. And even if we include gems into that, it does get down to around this $30 a day. But we've already talked about the problem with using the packs of 20 gems per pack in that. And I think there's still issues there. So even with a 55% win rate, which is a pretty good win rate, and $48 a month, and taking the packs into account, which you're going to have to complete the set before this even becomes relevant, it's still like quite a high like subscription cost here. So I think that's important to realise. Now, if we looked at best of 3, that's got a slightly lower EV. It's got 750 gem EV at 50% win rate, which comes out at about $84 a month. And if we look at quick draft, because this has a smaller entry fee, it only costs 750 gems to enter. This comes out with a 50% win rate at about $32 per month, and of course that would then get smaller again if both of these would get smaller again if we had a higher win rate. So I think this is interesting. I didn't really think Premier Draft would have the best EV. I mean, I suppose Quick Draft kind of does, but for some reason I thought traditional might be better, but clearly not. And there's other people who've done the same workings here as I've got, so it's I'm fairly confident these numbers are correct. However, if you think my numbers aren't correct, feel free to drop us a line on Twitter at PLD_MTG, or drop us a comment down below, and we can talk about it. But I'm just a normal player here. I'm not getting paid for the channel, because you need to get to 1,000 subs. Hint, hint. Not really, just kidding. But you do need to get to a certain level on YouTube before you get any monetization, and that's not really what I'm in this for. I'm just kind of doing it as a bit of a hobby. It's something that I find interesting, and I've enjoyed learning how to edit videos. But I'm quite into this, and I think this is still a bit too high for my tastes, and it's not something which I feel like I would want to do. And of course, we've got the other programs. We've got Magic Online, and there's a couple of different things for those who aren't really aware. I'll go through how the drafts work on Magic Online. It's a little bit like traditional draft. where you get some prizes and you draft your deck with other people, and then you'll play in a league just like you do on Magic Arena. The difference is here you can cash out the cards that you get. So if you do a normal draft league, you get to keep all the cards that you would, like you do in the drafts on Arena, but those have a monetary value and you can cash them out for actual money. So in a draft league on Magic Online, you get 6 boosters for 3 wins. You also get a trophy, which doesn't really have a benefit, but you get to see a little trophy next to your profile, and people can see who's got the most trophies, which is quite interesting. And you also get 2 qualifying points. Now, I'm not really going to take qualifying points into this, but it is a nice little addition. And these qualifying points you can use to enter some bigger tournaments, and it's a little bit like the Mythic qualifiers and stuff like that on Magic Online. But you do need, I think it's 40 qualifying points to get to the qualifier, so you need to get quite a few of these, and you need to trophy quite a few of your drafts to get this. So I'm not really going to count that in my calculations. For 2 wins, you get 2 boosters, and then for 0 or 1 wins, you don't get any prizes at all. And this is fine. Now, the drafted cards also come into this as well, but when looking at the EV for a lot of packs on Magic Online, it seems to be about $1 per pack, so I've included that in my calculations and things. Now, boosters are worth about $3 on Magic Arena, on Magic Online, and a draft costs about $12 to get into. So if we take these, you get 1.5 boosters per person, so that's going to be about $4.5 from the boosters, plus $3 from your drafted cards on average. So that's going to take you to about $7.50, which means you're left with about $4.50 to pay for each draft. If you did one of these a month for a 30-day month, one a day for a 30-day month, you end up with $135 per month, which is actually a lot higher than any of the ones on Arena are. But there's a different way to play on Magic Online, and this is the Phantom Draft. So this is what the cubes and things are done with, and it's maybe more popular, I think, especially because the cubes are really, really popular on Magic Online and the flashback drafts and things like that. So if you get 3 wins here, you get 150 player points. So these are points that you can use, and I should probably say at this point as well, the Phantom Draft only costs $10 to enter, and you can use 10 player points in place of $1. So it would cost 100 player points. So if you get 3 wins, you get 150 player points. That's a draft and a half. Plus a trophy again, and you also get this treasure chest and the 2 qualifying points as well. So the treasure chest is a bit like a booster, a cool booster, which could have something which is next to worthless in, or it could have something which is worth hundreds of dollars in. It's a real loot box, and like I say, you can cash out from Magic Online, so sometimes these are really, really good. The average EV from these is currently about $2.5, 2.5 ticks, but I think they've sometimes been a bit closer to 2. So I think when I've done these calculations, I've said they're worth about 2.2 or 2.3 ticks or ticks or dollars, so $2.30 or so. If you get 2 wins, you get 100 points, so that's a free draft, and that means that the top 4 players, top half of the players in the draft, all get to draft again, which I think is good. I think it feels good when you get that top half, you get your 2-1, and you get to just draft again. And the next 3 players, the ones who get 1 win, they all get half a draft back in these points. So I think that's really, really good, actually. It feels really good. And then the person who goes 0-3 doesn't get anything, which is fine. It kind of sucks when you do that. But, I do advocate kind of the winners get some good stuff. I think that is a good thing to have going. And this feels really good. But the EV ends up being about 78 points per person, which does come down to $65 per month. If you want to do one of these every day and you've got a 50% win rate, it comes down to about $65 a month. And I think this number, although it's quite a good number compared to some of the other drafts, it belies the actual feeling of the draft. You always pretty much feel like you're coming away with something. Unless you've done really, really badly and you went to 0-3, and that will happen from time to time, you're coming away with half a draft at least, if not another full draft. You can go back in, and a lot of people feel you can go infinite a lot easier on Magic Online, and I think this prize structure, although it's not fantastic EV overall, I think this prize structure is really cool. I like the treasure chest that you get, which could be $1,000. Not $1,000. It's not be $1,000, but a number of hundreds of dollars, which some people just like opening, and like the actual kind of random element at the end where I've got it. What's it going to be? It's like opening your booster at the LGS and finding your foil Jin Taxis or something like that. And I think that adds quite a good element, but you can just sell it on as the closed treasure chest as well. So the Phantom Drafts on Magic Online do feel a lot better, although maybe not quite as good as I thought they were, based just on how it feels. But I think the feeling is a big part of this as well, not just that last number. And the last thing I want to talk about is paper. So in paper drafts, it is quite difficult to quantify with the prizes and things, and different LGSs will charge different things. So I'm going to go to the LGS where I tend to go to the most. I'm not going to say it's my favourite LGS because it's not, but it is the LGS that I tend to go to the most, and this is about £15 a draft, which seems fairly standard for the UK. For the US among us, that's about $20. But this is which you might find is quite expensive, but I think Magic is more expensive over here anyway. But this seems fairly standard. With that, you get the 3 packs you play with, and you also get 1.5 packs per person in the prize pool. So if you had 8 players, that's going to be 12 packs in the prize pool, shared among the players. If you get 10 players, it's going to be another 3 people on top of that. So 15 packs between 10 players, and so on and so on. And then you also get a number of promos as well, which are worth something. So you get this. This ends up roughly 5 packs per person, so you're effectively getting 5 packs worth of value on average for £15, which works out about £3 a pack, which is okay. It's fine. There's some ins and outs. Different stores will have different things. They'll have different prize structures. Some might have no prizes whatsoever. Some might just do promos. Some might do more. Some might do special events where you do a draft winner box. It really depends on what you're getting. But what you do get here is a multiplayer experience. You get that social element, which a lot of people like. Some people don't. Some people have issues with that, and I get that. And there's not all LGSs are great, but the draft community at my LGS is really, really good, and I really enjoy playing there. And honestly, that community is what's kept me playing all these years. That's the thing which is kept me coming back to Arena, where other games have kept me coming back to Magic in general, not just Arena. Whereas other games I've played for a year or two, and then they've kind of fallen by the wayside if things have gone along. And you can't really get around this multiplayer experience being really, really good. It's also like 3-4 hours worth of entertainment. £15, okay, that's a bit like a cinema trip with snacks. Potentially even cheaper than that, depending on your cinema. And you're going to get a longer amount of enjoyment from this than you would by going to the cinema. So, I'm not going to try and do an EV analysis on this, but just I thought I'd include the comparison here as well. So, in conclusion, well, not really conclusion, but I want to kind of end on seeing if there's some kind of solution we can find. And I think I've kind of alluded to a subscription service, which I think has merit. I'm not saying it's a good solution, and let us know if you think whether it is a good solution or not in the comments, because I really would like to know, A, what you think would be if it's a good solution or not, and B, what you'd be happy to pay to do infinite drafts on Arena. The good thing about a subscription service is you might not feel bad if you do badly. They had the quick draft for Midweek Magic recently, and I felt like quite a good deck, and I ended up going something like 3-8 with it, 3 wins, 8 losses. I had 2 Mythic Dragons in it. It was a really solid green-white deck. It just didn't do very well. And yeah, it was a little bit annoying that I wasn't getting these wins, and I wanted to get those 3 wins just to get all the rewards from it. But I wasn't like banging my head against the wall like I do sometimes when I go 1-3, and I just think, why did this deck do so badly? And I think at one point I was like 1-3, and then I went 1-4 and 1-5, and then I eventually got a couple of wins later on. But it just didn't have the same negative feelings that I had with it. So I think like a subscription model would be good. Okay, it sucks a little bit when you don't do very well. You don't get a certain ranking or something like that. I'd still like the wins to count to something. But I think it would be quite good. It would be Phantom probably with this as well. So you wouldn't necessarily get any like the cards that you're drafting from it. But I think you could do this queue alongside the Premier Draft queue. So you could join a best of one. You could join the Premier Draft with a different prize structure and draft alongside the people who aren't in the subscription. I think that is possible. I think there's no real logistical issues. Yeah, okay, you might pass more rares and people might do that to just get rares, but you know what? I think there's ways and means to do it. I think I would begrudgingly pay about $30 or €30 a month for this. I would like it to be a little bit lower than that, but I think that's a point where I would definitely consider paying into something like this. Whereas at the minute, I'm not paying anything, and a lot of other people aren't paying anything into Arena either. I think it also might be, for people who are going in for it, it might be a good solution, even if they're currently not paying. It might just help mitigate those bad drafts and just mitigate that mental load when a draft doesn't go too well and you feel a bit rubbish. I don't know, if you are going infinite, would you consider paying anything towards the subscription to kind of mitigate those feelings a little bit? I would quite like to know that as well, because the best players will potentially be losing out by something like this. Another idea is to do more Phantom drafts, so something a little bit like the Magic Online Phantom drafts, where we have a much better prize pool. You know, you do feel like you're getting away with something when you do go 3-0 on a Magic Online draft. You get your 150 prize points, you get your treasure chest, you get your qualifying points, which are really cool. Like I know I said I wasn't including them before, but I think it's a cool addition which is there. I'm just not including it in my monetary analysis. Whereas when you go 7-2 on Arena, 2,200 gems doesn't feel like you're getting away with something. It's not even 1.5 drafts. And then on Magic Online, you get the 1.5 drafts, plus your treasure chest, plus qualifying points. And yeah, okay, you get your ranking as well on Arena. But 2,200 gems just doesn't feel like it's the best that you can get. And that is the highest you can get. You can get a draft and a bit and some packs. But yeah, I just don't think it's quite good. Anyway, like I say, if you want to discuss this, I feel I've been a little bit more positive this time round, which I'm pleased about. So it has taken quite a lot of effort in. I thought this was going to be a quick 10-minute video. It hasn't. It's probably pushing the half an hour mark right now, whereas the one I actually recorded yesterday was pushing 40 minutes. But I think this is, I just wanted to share my thoughts, and if you know, I'm hoping there's going to be lots of comments and discussion, not just to kind of boost the video a little bit through the comments section, but just to actually have some discussion, because there's a lot of moving parts here and I really want to know what other people think. So drop them down below, and you know what, New Capenna's just around the corner. We'll be starting looking at the previews for that. It's 4 weeks away, I think. We have 4 more Monday night drafts at my LGS left before the pre-release, which is quite scary, but you know, I think I'm ready for starting to find something out. We've still got a few more weeks left of Kamigawa, and it's still a really good draft set despite not doing particularly well. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.